Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Vintage Roadshow here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my monthly podcast where, I just get to gush about one of my favorite movies and have a guest come on who also loves that movie too. And joining me is friend and very frequent collaborator,
hmm
Paige. Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm ready to gush, Shane.
And we're ready to gush after we just got spooked by The Shining from 1980, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Based
You've
off,
never heard of Stanley Kubrick?
Hmm,
No, just kidding.
that's interesting because
Can
we're
you
about to
imagine?
talk. And this is based off of a Stephen King novel, even though Stephen King would probably be like, don't say that. Because he was not a fan of this adaptation, and I'm pretty sure Kubrick's exact response was like, I don't effing care, and just moved on with his
hmm
life. So, and this film focuses on a family heads to an isolated hotel for the winter where a sinister presence influences the father into violence. At the same time, his psychic son sees horrifying forebodings from both the past and the future. That's a lot more interpretation than a synopsis needed to give on IMDb. But this is starring Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance, Shelley Duvall as Wendy Torrance, and Scatman Crothers is in this too as Dick Halloran. And we have Danny Lloyd who plays um why they not get an actress named Wendy? They got a Jack and a Danny.
I know they could have the set.
See, they done messed up. Maybe Shelley had a cousin named Wendy Duvall, and they
Yeah, I
could
don't
have went
know.
in that direction.
Yeah.
Or they could have just named her Shelley Torrance. I don't.
Yeah. Look.
It's not like Kubrick didn't change enough from the book anyway to piss off Stephen
Yeah,
King.
just
But usually, what I do before we dive into the film is talk a little bit some broader strokes and topics related to the film.
we're just stroking and gushing over here.
Yes, absolutely. And talking about this director, you never heard of Stanley Kubrick, but Paige, you never heard of him. But what are your thoughts about Stanley Kubrick?
No, just kidding. I love Stanley Kubrick. I mean, if you don't know who Stanley Kubrick is, I can't really help you. He's one of the most like prolific American directors of all time.
Mhm.
One of my favorite directors. He's crazy
Yes,
and he's afraid of flying.
yes.
And he's an American who lived in London for a good chunk of his later life.
So much that Eyes Wide Shut is quote unquote in New York City, despite being very not in New York City and very obviously London.
hmm but I don't really know any of that. Strictly has to do with The Shining.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick's famous. Google him. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So Kubrick is notorious at this point in film history for not exactly being the nicest person to his actors.
Or easiest to work with.
Exactly. And this film in particular, making Shelley Duvall do like 150 takes of being verbally abused by Jack Nicholson is a little intense. And I wouldn't be surprised if Shelley Duvall was never the same after this movie, and I'm not sure that she was. Um
Yeah.
it and it's really interesting in terms of Kubrick was such an interesting filmmaker because long before people told Christopher Nolan that he did not connect with people on an emotional level in his movies, Stanley Kubrick certainly doesn't connect with human beings on an emotional level in his movies. There's a strange distance between any of his films, like the atmosphere and stuff like that. But it sure invokes a lot of emotions out of the audience because this movie is unnerving and
Uh,
uncomfortable. But no, he's also one of my favorite directors, and talk a little bit about him before on my 2001 A Space Odyssey episode because absolutely love that film as well. And we'll eventually talk about him again on a Clockwork Orange episode, which he makes some pretty messed up movies.
yeah.
And has no problem looking at some really dark sides of humanity. Because, like, this does deal with alcoholism, it does deal with mental illness, and then the supernatural elements as well. And, very violent, malignant, and racist ghosts. Um, for
Yeah,
sure.
I always forget that the ghosts are racist, and it's always a horribly unpleasant surprise. Like every time I watch this, I'm like, oh God.
So, a quick side note. So, would Grady and the rest of the haunting in the shine inside the Overlook would have been upset if Danny was bringing a white person to the shine to the Overlook Hotel? Because, like, your son's bringing an outsider into the situation, and then drops the N word hard R
Ugh.
at the end, and then Jack Nicholson questioning back
Also
hard
drop.
R,
Yeah, no, it's
and
not
then
good.
again.
I'm like, I always really hate that part.
So yes, the ghosts are not only malignant, but they're also racist too. Um,
As if it couldn't get any worse.
if it couldn't get any worse. But Kubrick had such an interesting and unique perspective from a filmmaking standpoint. And if you watch a film, you know it's a Kubrick film. And then you watch a film today and you know who were film bros and grew up watching Stanley Kubrick movies.
Am I a film bro? I
Do you want
feel
to be?
no, but I think I am. I fear that I am. I fear that I am a film bro.
Paige, in college, uh did you have posters of trying to think of like, Fight Club and Pulp Fiction up in your dorm?
No. Well, I lived in an apartment when I went to college that my parents paid for.
So did you have those types of posters up in your apartment that your parents paid for while you were in college?
I don't think so, but I did take a class on Kubrick and Polanski.
So you did the real work, and had an actual formal education about Stanley Kubrick.
I did. It's one of my favorite college classes ever. But
I
I think I am. I have a little bit of film bro in me.
Well, Christopher Nolan certainly does, and I'm pretty sure Yorgos
Hmm.
Lanthimos does too.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah,
they're very Kubrickian, as you might say, as that is turned into a word,
yeah. Hmm.
because that's how influential Stanley Kubrick is. But outside of just being a Stanley Kubrick film, this is my first horror film that I've talked about so far on this show because this is indeed my favorite horror film.
Mm.
So, what are some of your favorites, Paige?
Some of my favorite horror films.
Hmm.
Okay. I'm a huge horror fan. In fact, I go with you pretty much to see any horror film because Jess doesn't like them. So
Yes, there you go.
I'm the backup. Which is all it works out well. But I can count on one hand the number of horror films that have actually scared me because I've seen so many horror
Hmm.
films. This is on there, The Shining.
Hmm.
I will also include It Follows,
Mm.
Smile. Gonna watch Smile 2 later, maybe put that on there. And then also the 1990 version of it with Tim Curry.
Ah,
And
yes.
that's it. Those are the only horror movies that have ever like scared me for more than, 2 seconds of the jump scare.
Well, I am a big baby, so I have been scared by many films. I got scared quite a few times watching Nosferatu this week.
I
The
can't
new
wait to
one.
watch that too.
So good. But I this is obviously my favorite, and in a couple episodes, I'll be talking about another one of my favorites, which is The Thing. Apparently I really like horror films set in the snow and in
Hmm.
isolated places where we are perturbed by some kind of malignant force, whether it be alien or ghost or some kind of supernatural entity. Um, I'm a big fan of the original Halloween, specifically that one, because,
Mm.
Carpenter actually directed the hell out of that movie and just didn't use a bunch of cheap slasher
Hmm.
cliches before they were created. Because basically, Friday the 13th was just a cheap ripoff of Halloween because they're like, wow, this made a shit ton of money. Let's make our own movie. And I love Halloween, just the technical prowess of what John Carpenter did in both The Thing and Halloween. Some of the other ones that are up there for me definitely are The Babadook, which unnerves me on a deeply emotional level. And also, that movie is emotionally devastating for sure.
And the Babadook's also gay, which adds to the horror. No, I'm
He
not homophobic.
the Babadook is a queer icon now because reasons.
Because of the internet. I don't even know why, but he is.
Because the internet. Um,
I'm literally homophobic. I'm like scared of gay people. Like I'm terrified of them. Not like I'm prejudiced.
I'm specifically terrified of the Babadook. So There you go.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm not homophobic at all. But
I am terrified of the Babadook, though.
yeah,
That is confirmed.
yeah.
Also, like, Hereditary is definitely up there, which
Mm-hmm.
emotionally devastates you for 2/3 of the movie and then decides, hey, did you have enough? Because we're just getting started.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, I'm
Damn.
not ready for this. And like Loki, I love like Tremors.
It's
It's
not even, that's not scary. I'm
it
sorry.
I it has some good tension,
Yeah.
and it's technically a horror film. It's a monster movie.
Hating on Tremors. I'm just saying I don't think it's very scary.
Um, I don't
Sorry.
care if it's scary or not. I just love
Oh,
Tremors
hey,
from start to finish.
that's fine.
The Exorcist is definitely up
Mm-hmm.
there, which that is an unnerving experience and also one of the best faith-based films ever created. So there you go. They don't make them like they used to. And also Signs. I'm a big fan of Signs.
Mm.
Also Aliens. Except these aliens wouldn't like snow because they don't like water. So
Yeah.
which Signs is also an interesting faith-based film. Except this one has Mel Gibson in it, so then you definitely knew that it was going to be about Christians.
Mm.
So right off the bat, but those are definitely some of my favorites. But let's get into The Shining specifically. And since this is a horror movie, let's start with what are the things that scare you the most in this movie? So, Paige, what are some of the scenes that scare you the most in this?
Um, I mean all of it. I don't
Just a consistent sense of dread
Yeah.
through the whole entire movie and the most unnerving music choices
Well, yeah.
possible.
No, but in all the my actual answer, I just I think what unnerves me so much about this movie is the way that it like plays with time and reality.
Mhm.
And I don't like any of the scenes where either Wendy or Jack is like getting a glimpse into the past of the hotel, like the
Mhm.
1920s. It just like scares me so much, and I don't know why. I think it's just like the unreality, the surrealism. Like you don't really know you kind of can guess what's going on, but you don't really know. And then obviously the last shot of the movie where Jack is in the photo from 1921, even though the movie's set in 1970 something. Um, it's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, has he always been the caretaker? Like, I'm like getting freaked out just talking about it.
And the best part is Kubrick's like, we just put that in there to freak people out. It like has no actual meaning. It's like, how does this connect with the rest of the film? It's like it doesn't. That was just to mess with people.
Well, I mean, I think it does. They
Well,
they talk about how he's always been the
well,
caretaker,
I think the point is it's like, is there a rationale for that picture to exist? There doesn't have to be. It's just freaky that it does. So I think that was enough for Kubrick to put it in there. Have a creepy stinger right after the Jack frozen in the ice shot.
which is also gross.
Which also, I think the scariest part of this movie is just Jack Nicholson's face.
Hmm.
The series of faces that he makes in this film, because I think the one of the first times, it's like even on the interview, just his eyebrows are freaky, and then the Tuesday popping up on screen jump scare. Um, he's like creepy music. It's Tuesday, and you have Jack just like
Well, we
looking,
can't see. He's making
just
the face.
just looking out the window in the most disturbing way, and the camera just like slowly panning in on it. You're just like creepy. And then, the whole part where uh Wendy comes in and he's typing away and he just does the and looks up at her with the most maniacal look on his face, clattering onto the keys is just
Hmm.
disturbing. The most disturbing look that he has in the whole entire movie is after he kills Dick Halloran and just creepily stands up slowly into the frame and has that like side look where it looks extremely demonic and you're just like, this man has gone. There's no Jack Torrance at home anymore. And just Jack Nicholson is terrifying. And the whole here's Johnny, and obviously
Iconic.
that's iconic, but he's terrifying. Just Jack Nicholson is terrifying. The sequence where Wendy is lost in the hotel towards the end, trying to find Danny, and runs into one. You have the furry blowjob that's definitely going on.
Oh, that's so scary.
The rattling music as it does the push in to zoom in at the guy in the dog
I
mask.
hate that. I think that's the scariest shot in the movie to me. Seriously, it freaks me the fuck out
It's the
so much.
strangest thing.
Yeah,
And
I hate it.
it's like,
I hate
what the
it.
hell is this? And then you have the great party
No,
guy who just has the blood just slowly streaming down his head. And then all the skeletons.
don't
Um,
like that either.
nope. And then the largest menstruation ever recorded on film. The just the blood flow from the elevator. Creepy imagery, obviously. And that's a recurring one throughout the film. And then of course the whole entire sequence in room 237 with the um
The rotting corpse.
well, first off starts as this sexy model looking lady in the bathtub and then turns into rotting corpse lady who's just tackling as
No, I
I don't
hate
know
it.
what's scarier, her or Jack Nicholson's faces. Because he's like cowering away because like Jack
Mm-mm.
Nicholson was acting hard in this movie with all those facial expressions that are going full blown wild in this.
He was earning that paycheck for sure.
Yes, he was for sure. Which is maybe why he didn't get looped into the everybody wins a Razzie for this movie. Like Kubrick and Shelley Duvall won Razzies for this for worst director and worst actress.
Which is fucking crazy because I've never heard of anything so incorrect.
Like this is it's fascinating that this film was so like there's so many people who hated it
And
when
they
this
were all
came out,
wrong.
which it's fascinating because like this is not an accessible movie. It is so odd and strange and unnerving from start to finish. Obviously this film is not it's not clear exactly what's going on. It doesn't try to explain things to you. Kubrick, I don't think, had any intention of trying to make this something that you could fully explain by the end. It's just that this family is placed in a situation that is terrifying, unnerving, and unexplainable. And that's what makes it so terrifying.
Hmm.
And it draws on some of the themes and ideas from the book, like the alcoholism and the abuse. And
Blame it on the juice, got you feeling loose.
yes, and like I know one of the reasons why Stephen King hated that Jack Nicholson was cast in this movie was because of the fact that he's like crazy from the start. He's supposed to, in the book, he's supposed to be somebody. It's like he is like a regular guy. He struggles with his alcoholism, and that caused him to like hurt his son and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then he's susceptible to what's going on here. But from the second you see Jack Nicholson in this movie, like Jack Torrance is a terrifying individual,
Yeah.
and it's like where his wife just kind of like, is this Donner party happening? And then and he's just like, what's that? And he's just like, well, son, they had to revert to cannibalism. And just like telling his child casually about cannibalism and stuff like that. It's like, this is a madman. But like it's also interesting because The Shining's such a big part of like Stephen King lore because it pops up in different books. Like it's in it. Like some of the characters in it have the shine. And here, which it's still called The Shining, and it's more of just like the Dick Halloran's supposed to be like this character that like mentors Danny through this, and like he doesn't die in the
In the book.
book.
Oh, really?
So like poor Dick Halloran, poor Scatman Crothers just gets served up as cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, he's just like a plot device so that they could get another cat up there so that they could escape at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because like he gets unceremoniously just murked, which that is a fantastic jump scare.
Yeah.
With him slowly walking through the place, and then I don't know. It would have been more effective if Jack Nicholson didn't start yelling first and then swing down. Which that was a choice. It's like it's come swinging in there, but it's still interesting enough how they incorporate like this idea of the shine and the psychic abilities, but like it's not as big of a thing, I feel like, in the movie.
Mhm.
Except it's just like Danny's really creepy and starts the whole red rum, and that whole entire thing, which is absolutely terrifying as well. Creepy kids being creepier, creepy in horror movies for sure. But Paige, what are some other things in the film that really stand out to you that you like about it?
I was thinking about this while we were watching, so I'm like, I'm gonna have to gush a bit.
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop. But I think that I feel like big complaint I have a lot about. I can't talk. A big complaint I have a lot about horror movies is that the characters behave in unrealistic ways. Whether that's like all of a sudden a regular guy is like, a US Navy SEAL,
Out of
or
nowhere.
yeah, or the characters like lose all of their brain cells immediately when
Yep.
there's like a knock on the door. I feel like this strikes a very good balance of being like, okay, this is how someone would realistically behave if their husband came at them with an axe, but like she also kind of like gets her shit together enough to save her
Hmm.
son.
Hmm.
Like you can tell she's really terrified, but she gets her shit together enough. So I really like how it strikes what I think is a realistic balance in a very unrealistic situation.
Well, yeah, I made a comment too while we're watching it about like I feel bad for Wendy because she just has no fight defending
Mm-hmm.
herself from Jack being like an absolute menace and terrible verbally abusive husband.
Well, and physically abuse him
Yes,
with the axe.
yes. Well, but then she jumps into action when her son is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And like that like mother switch just like
Yeah.
switches on, and she's feisty, she's ready to fight
Mm-hmm.
him.
But
And
you can tell she's still terrified.
yes.
But she's like, you know what? Damn it! Like I'm gonna save Danny at least.
Well,
Like,
and she went through the ringer with all the insane, crazy things that she sees throughout this whole
mm-hmm.
entire hotel, and then still keeps pushing forward to find her son,
Mm-hmm.
who is a very smart kid or also has psychic abilities, as he was able to navigate that hedge maze in
Mm-hmm.
the snow. And then
In the
also,
dark.
yes, also wise enough to go over his own tracks to trick his alcoholic demon influenced dad.
Mm-hmm.
And just that whole entire sequence, it's like Wendy goes through so many terrors, but at the end of the day, she wanted to save her son,
Mm-hmm.
and she does. And Jack is very consistent throughout the film. He is somebody who's completely unhinged.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just from his eyebrows, would you have hired somebody who looks that insane to be stuck alone in a hotel for months? No. The answer is no.
Yeah. Of course not.
This is 1980. There are We're coming out of a horrible economic crisis during the Carter administration. People wanted jobs. They had options. They could have gotten somebody in.
Anyone less crazy looking.
Yes. He walks in, eyebrows, nope, sorry, sir. You are
Mm-hmm.
just too close to looking insane for us to not believe that you'll go full blown insane
mm-hmm.
by being locked in here alone with your family for 4 months.
Yeah.
Obviously, not a great idea. This is, and I think the performances are very specific. I feel like Scatman Crothers probably gives the most like normal, straightforward performance out of like, because like there's not a lot of main characters in this. It's like it's Jack Nicholson just going full blown Jack Nicholson with
Mm-hmm.
this, and he's having a ball. If you've ever seen videos of him prepping for cakes, the whole chopping into the bathroom, he's like axe murdering, and just like swinging the axe around. So he obviously was having a ball. Shelley Duvall's performance is very specific because it's like, does it seem like a performance you would expect in like a regular movie? No, but I feel like it fits in the same way that you wouldn't expect a normal performance in an M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's like you watch an M. Night Shyamalan movie, these aren't people in real life. These are people in an M. Night Shyamalan movie. They all act slightly weird. Um,
Do compare Stanley Kubrick to M. Night Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan is not a good. He's not good. I don't mean morally. I don't know the man, but
That's
like,
a whole entire other
yeah. I
conversation.
was gonna say.
I'm making a point of like Kubrick films have a very specific tone and approach to them where this doesn't quite feel like real life, and the performances generally fit that. Because
Mm-hmm.
like this, A Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, I especially like this era Kubrick, 2001: A Space Odyssey. I feel like everybody in those films act in a very particular way that fit the tone of what the movie's going for.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have I want to shout out Philip Stone who played Grady, because he goes from a so mild-mannered butler to menacing. Like
Uh, uh,
like there's a turn in that bathroom scene, which also that bathroom, anytime I go into a super weird bright bathroom with bright colors, automatically I'm in the
yeah.
shining
I
bathroom.
know. I'm like, is Grady gonna come here and start screaming racial slurs at me? Like, please no.
And because he's like, oh no, sir, let me clean that up for
I'm
you.
so sorry. I'm so sorry.
And then he's like, when Jack pushes him, then he gets this look on his face. It's very stern, and his voice completely changes. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
you have always been here. My wife needed taking care of,
Or no,
to
correcting.
correcting.
Oh,
And
so scary.
like he flips a switch, and that is like he's in one scene in this movie and makes an impact. And he's in a
Mm-hmm.
couple different Kubrick films because he plays Alex's dad in The Clockwork Orange, and
He
then
does.
yeah, and then he's somewhere in Barry Lyndon, and like Joe Turkel, who was in who played Tyrell in Blade Runner, is the bartender, and there's just something unnerving about his flat affect and
Mm-hmm.
just like your money's not good here, Mr. Torrance. And it's just
The
like,
smile that doesn't reach his eyes.
yep, it's just like this is so creepy, and the lighting of like the backlighting and
Mm-hmm.
everything, just the cinematography in this film is off the charts because that's steady cam. He rocks the hell out of that throughout this whole entire film. Watching little Danny riding on his trike
Mm-hmm.
and it just following him like that, that would not be as effective if it was like a handheld camera
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like shaking the whole
Yeah.
entire time you're following it, because it needs to be something, it needs to be unnatural feeling. Because like if you're like chasing after your kid riding around, like you see like your vision's bouncing around, you're running,
Mm-hmm.
it's like this is not, this is just like this ominous force following this child. And then you just find a couple of twins, come play with us, Danny.
They're not technically twins. That's one piece of Shining trivia I know.
Oh, they sure look like
I
it.
know they look like twins, so I don't know why they're not, but yeah, I think that ties into another point I wanted to make, which was
Mhm.
that I think one of the reasons this film freaks me out so much is all of the like subtle ways that Kubrick makes it like not quite real. Like
Mhm.
I know that theoretically like the interior layout of the hotel doesn't match the exterior.
No, and it does not match the floor plan. Like
Hmm.
it doesn't make logistical sense,
Yeah.
which is unnerving and creepy.
Hmm. I saw an Instagram reel about this. I don't know if this is true or not, but like I can't unsee it now. That apparently Jack Nicholson like made a creative choice to like briefly look into the camera several times to kind of like subtly break the fourth wall. Again, don't know if that's true or not, but I noticed it.
There was a
And
couple of moments
yeah.
where I noticed it too. I'm like,
Hmm.
and it's just adding that extra layer of this is uncomfortable.
Hmm. Hmm. And just like as you said, the ways all the actors, the performances they give are like slightly to the left of how normal people act, but
Yep.
not so outlandish that you're like,
Hmm.
oh, this is crazy. And just all of these like subtle things. And yeah, it just really adds up to a sense of like what is going on.
The carpeting. Just like obviously there's the iconic carpeting.
What's wrong with the carpet?
It's so obnoxiously odd. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so like the patterns and everything. All of the designs in this hotel, it's like singular color rooms
Mm-hmm.
and stuff that is just like the bathroom was all this green. in the 237 room, the bathroom in the ballroom is like that red, and just all of it, all of the production design just feels so off and uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like the carpets, like who thought that this extremely like strong pattern just clashing with everything around it and just so off-putting and something so creepy. And then you have shots like that overhead shot of the hedge maze
Mm-hmm.
is creepy. It just, even just from the opening with the helicopter shot swaying back and forth following the car, and it's like the
Ugh.
because you
So
have
good.
that, and then like the death rattle, like it's like so creepy. And then there's just these sustained string notes. There's like mm, and obviously I made a comment about this. Johnny Greenwood definitely had this film in mind when he made the score for There Will Be Blood, because there's, I
Yeah.
think, that same kind of like unnervingness to the
Yeah.
music that's always putting you on edge. It's so atmospheric, and you know, obviously there's so many conspiracy theories and fan theories about this film. Like the whole entire documentary Room 237, which some of them are just ridiculous.
I've never seen that. I want to watch that.
Um, I've heard a lot of criticisms about this documentarian giving a voice to a lot of like really problematic conspiracy theories in it and stuff like
Mm.
that. But I'm sure it's still wild to watch.
I don't know. I am more on the side of I like to talk about conspiracy theories, but there aren't that many I actually believe. I
Well,
I don't know. I just like to talk about weird shit.
there's that comedian, I think his last name is Funchies, who's just like, you're gonna tell me that you don't believe in any conspiracy theories? You think the government is being 100% truthful with all of us at all the time? And living in the world where we live in New Jersey in the end of 2024, where we're getting drones everywhere, yes, there are some theories out there that might be true.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. I agree. I don't think the I mean not to like get into it, but I don't think the government of course is honest with us even like a little at this point.
We're not. Nobody's being honest with us about these drones.
Yeah, so I don't
Goddamn commie Chinese drones! Let me get my shotgun and go shoot
oh
some
my
drones out
fucking
of the
god.
sky. They're Amazon drones. They're either Elon Musk drones or they're Jeff Bezos drones. You heard it from me first.
Okay.
Uh, so now I'm starting conspiracy
Hell
theories on the
yeah.
internet.
And you know what?
Isn't
No,
this fun?
they're from the moon where Stanley Kubrick is still alive and still lives. He's sending them.
Actually, what's real life is the movie Moonfall, where the moon is actually a giant satellite. And
Oh.
yes, the drones are being housed there. Look at us.
What?
We're churning all these out. Because like there's a whole thing about like this is Kubrick's like uh confession letter that he faked the moon landing, because Danny's wearing like an Apollo sweater in
Mhm.
one scene. I'm like, that's enough for you to believe that he's doing that? He could even be trolling people, just which
Yeah.
I can guarantee you Stanley Kubrick probably had a lot of fun in his life trolling people. He just seemed like the
Mhm.
kind of person who would enjoy that.
I would see that.
But like, and the whole entire like this was built on like an Indian burial ground, and like,
Mhm.
is that what's going on here and stuff like that. And that's what's so fascinating about this film, is that there's no answers to any of these things.
Mhm.
It's so unknowable, which makes it so much creepier.
Yeah. And I also I feel like so many movies try to emulate that and fall flat because I feel like this movie gives us just the right amount of information for it to be mysterious but not
Mhm.
completely nonsensical. Like I feel like some movies are like, "Oh, we're just not going to explain like give you a shred of context." And at least with this, I think we can understand that like there's some timey-wimey stuff going
Mhm.
on and like maybe his soul is getting absorbed into the hotel and but like and that's enough, I
I
think.
think the most important scene to pull this movie together is the sit down, like that conversation in the kitchen between Dick Halloran and Danny,
Mhm.
where it's just like, obviously Dick's like trying to hide things from this kid a little bit.
But we'll protect him, I
Yeah.
think. Not like for sinister reasons.
Yeah. And because like Dick's like a guy that seems to actually care about this kid, and he's excited that he found somebody else with the shine.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole entire thing where he's like, places are like people. Some of them have the shine and some of them don't. And it's just like that's enough to tell you like there's something unknowable and supernatural about this place
Mm-hmm.
that we need to worry about. And honestly, that's really all you need to know about this situation. And obviously, it's preying upon the most vulnerable soul
Mm-hmm.
in this place, which is Jack, because he's a recovering alcoholic. He certainly has some anger problems. He's unhinged. Like,
Is that your diagnosis?
um, I don't need a formal diagnosis. I just looked at Jack Nicholson and his eyebrows, and I'm like, there you go. That's it.
That's it.
Well, that's why Stephen King wanted John Voight to be in
Oh.
this, because he wanted it to feel like he's a normal everyday guy at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, and then the actor needed the ability to go unhinged as the film goes on. And Jack Nicholson just started at like flooring it at 60
Mm-hmm.
and just
And it just got worse from there, yeah. But I think it works.
For this film, it does.
Yeah.
This is exactly like Kubrick didn't give a shit about any of the books he adapted. He's like, I like this idea, I like this setting, I like this general broad thought.
Mm-hmm.
Fine now.
Fine now, bitch.
And did what he wanted with it. And like obviously he had a collaborator in Arthur C. Clarke for 2001: A Space Odyssey, but they didn't agree on things, which is why if you read the book, which is credited to Arthur C. Clarke, because they both co-wrote the book and the screenplay.
No, he co-wrote the book.
So like Kubrick doesn't get credit on the book, but like they did it together. It just basically each of them took their own approach. So like the book's more Arthur C. Clarke, which it's technical, it's explained, it goes into details about everything going on. And Kubrick's like, that's no fun. Didn't explain anything and left it all up into interpretation. Which is why, like, I have a deeper understanding of the film because I read all 4 books that Arthur C. Clarke wrote. Because it does explain what the Star Child is at the end and how the wormhole worked and all those different kinds of things. But like Kubrick, that was never his, like, he didn't want to over explain things to you. He wanted to put you in a situation, have you have to process exactly what the hell's going on the screen in front of you.
At the same time, the character is.
Yep. He wanted you to go on an erotic night out with Tom Cruise and be like, what the shit's happening to me tonight in Eyes Wide Shut.
I don't want to go out in erotic anything with Tom Cruise.
But did you watch Eyes Wide Shut? Because then you did.
I did against it was a surprise. It was against my will.
Okay. I once did show that to my friends Haley and Matt, and they did not know what they were in for.
Wait, they just went in blind eyes. Wow.
Yes, that is quite the film to go in blind.
Oh my god.
Matt still brings that up occasionally.
I wish I was able to like rewatch that for the first time.
I would love to rewatch any Kubrick film again for the first time, not knowing, because God, just like the feeling, like I remember watching 2001: A Space Odyssey for the first time in my dorm sophomore year of college, freshman year of college, and just being like, what is this? What is this? And that whole entire wormhole beyond the infinite sequence, I'm just like, is this what it feels like to be on drugs? I wouldn't know. I've never done them. And then I'm just sitting there like, what is this? So
you've never done any drugs? Not even pot? What?
I don't even drink alcohol.
I didn't know you've never. I guess I should have known that.
I
did know that. Actually.
The hardest drugs I've done is caffeine, which I don't even drink that anymore.
You know what? How about this? Next time we're recording something, I'll give you a pot gummy like 20 minutes before we press start.
Nope.
And let's see how that goes.
No, I appreciate my existence in all of its sobriety. And I see all the real horrors of the world unblunted. Misery lost as I stare off darkly into the middle distance. I
won't drug you. I won't drug you if without your consent.
Well, I'd appreciate that, Paige.
Yeah. Or
Um,
anyone. I don't drug anyone.
there you go.
Just to be clear.
Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about related to The
Other than that,
Shining?
other than that, I don't drug people.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think whoever gave Razzies to Shelley Duvall and Stanley Kubrick should be punched in the wiener, and because that's the fucking stupidest take I've ever heard.
Yes, this is one of those films that people seriously got wrong. Like,
Yeah,
what-
I'm not normally the type of person like art is subjective. Everyone's
yes,
opinion's valid. Like that's normally where I fall with like art stuff. But in this case, no,
no.
like you're fucking wrong. Like I'm I normally don't say that, but whoever doesn't like The Shining is wrong.
I don't understand how somebody could argue that this movie doesn't accomplish what it's trying to do, which is unnerve people.
Yeah.
Like that's the bare bones of what this movie's trying to do, and it is creepy as hell.
Like there are
So,
plenty of movies I don't necessarily like. Like There Will Be Blood is a good example.
mhm.
I don't really like it, but I feel like it's well done, like stylistically, and it accomplishes its goal. So like I think you can dislike a movie without thinking it's bad. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine Daniel Plainview in The Overlook?
He would love it. He would be murdering people
Yeah.
immediately. They wouldn't even need to corrupt him. He'd be like, "All right, where do I sign up?"
It's like, I'm it. Point me in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
And it's just like, oh, well, we thought we would have
oh,
had to do some like Grady's like in the bathroom with him. It's just like, we feel like you need to do some correcting, yes. And it's just like, oh, okay, well, our job is done here. Then all the spirits just like fade into the
yeah,
background,
like,
and then
oh.
it's just him screaming, "I'm the revelation" with a bowling pin and just beating people to death in the middle of
Yeah,
the overlook.
he would need no problem. So the movie would be like 20 minutes long
Mm.
because he'd come in shooting. He started blasting.
So, anyways, I started laughing. So yes, this is a film that, despite mixed reactions to initially, has certainly become an all-time classic in the past, about to be 45 years
Oh wow.
since this movie came out. But yes, this is my favorite horror film. So it's fun getting to episodes here where it's like this is my favorite of this genre. And soon I'll be talking about The Thing, another one of my favorites. But next month's episode is going to be my buddy Joe joining me for a Paisan trip through The Godfather.
Oh, I bet you two will fucking love that.
Joe and I are going to have a lot of fun paisaning out, and you won't even be able to see any of the Italian gestures.
Oh, you really should film that one because you're both Italian and like Italian men love the fucking Godfather. It's just how it is. It's how God
I
intended.
was shown this movie when I was 10 years old. It was my destiny.
That's I I don't know if I'd show this movie to a 10-year-old, but it was a different time.
Um,
We're very old.
it was 2001 when my grandfather was like, "You're gonna watch this movie. It's your culture."
That was like 20 almost 24 years ago.
Yeah,
It was a different
it's
time.
true. It was still the 21st century. But like, no, that was an 80-something-year-old man being like, actually, no, he was in the 70s still then, and he's like, no, this is your culture. Your mom's gonna make you watch this, and my mom blames my grandfather still for me watching The Godfather when I was 10 years old. But that
Yeah.
is a story for next month. But
Exactly.
Paige, thank you so much for coming on and getting spooked
We're
and
spooked.
talking about the Shining.
Thank you, Shane. The pleasure as always. And it's not John Ford, so I'm
Yeah,
happy.
there you go. Um, just in time for me to put Paige through watching the shortest Wes Anderson film
Oh,
possible,
I fucking hate Wes Anderson.
which is
But it's
why we
okay.
chose the shortest possible Wes Anderson film, which is one of his short films.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's the micro dosing of Wes Anderson, and Paige doesn't have to worry about it.
Yay.
Right. Thank all of you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What's your favorite horror film? What's your go-to Kubrick? Do you also feel like Jack Nicholson was way too crazy and you would not hire him for this job in The Shining? Make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We have a lot of great show and content here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network, whether it's about movies like all 5 of my podcasts. You got movies, you got television, we got music, we have sports, we have physical media, comics, and just talking about life with Luke. But lot of great shows. Make sure to check them out. And special shout out to Joe, who did create the logo for this particular show, which
You
I
did?
absolutely love.
Oh,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
So shout out to my buddy Joe, Joey T Cartoon P on YouTube if you want to check him out. But he is interested if you do want any kind of designs or drawings, electronic, let me know. We'll get you in contact. Shameless plugs all around.
Damn, okay.
But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and listening to the Wasteland Vintage Roadshow here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network.